right? You can do so much. It's just a matter of, like you said, putting in time, effort, and taking action. It's the people who take action that are able to accomplish the things that no one would consider to be able to be possible, right, overall. So don't let people identify you in any way, shape, or form. Do what you want to do. And if you're going to say you're going to do it, do it. Just take action, because there's been so many times in my life where I've told people, I'd like to do this, or I'm going to do this, and you don't take action upon it, and it breaks you down. It breaks you down, and it starts to have you question yourself as to whether or not you're the individual you say you are, or you're the individual that has the potential of being something else, If you say you're going to do something, take action, do it. Not just for the reason that, indecisiveness kills, but because...
We're live.
What's up, my boy?
Camacho, David Camacho, welcome in.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome back, guys, to Meditation in Motion podcast. I'm here with David Camacho today. I wanted to introduce you guys to him as the audience. David Camacho will bring a lot of value to you guys, in my opinion, and I'm excited to see what he has to share with you guys. What I know about David, I'm going to let him introduce himself, but he's a martial artist, a mixed martial artist. He's a journeyman fisherman, and and he's a funny guy too. He's from Colombia. They call him the Bogota Bruiser, right? So,
yes, sir.
Just a few things about yourself. Give the people a little update. Or a little background on you, and
man,
and let's bring some value to the world.
So I'm an MMA fighter. That's like my main trajectory, my main goal right now. But I do have a personal training background as well. And I think that's where we kicked off, knowing each other, and me following you in a lot of what you're doing. And that's what got me interested in just the overall content that you were putting out. But yeah, man, turned personal trainer to MMA fighter. And that's the path, that's the goal. Aside from that, I'm working at John Wai Martial Arts, where I teach martial arts, and so just keeping up with the three overall, trying to see as to how we can handle that and keep it moving along,
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's awesome. I wore this jacket in.
Yeah, bro. If you were to tell me, I would have worn my wrestling shirt or something, bro. My singlet or some shit like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is just a throwback. I saw it in the closet. I was like, man, let me wear this. I met David at South Plantation High School down here in South Florida. So that's where the connection started, and look where the network brings us now, right? So we're here sitting down now. 10 years later almost?
Yeah. What year did? Yeah, man.
I graduated 2016, man.
Yeah, 15. So we're right there.
We're almost there.
We're close to it.
It's crazy, man.
I feel old, man.
Yeah, me too. But we only let yourself get old. That's what I always tell all my clients. Everyone, you only get old if you allow yourself to get old. So
yeah.
First off, and most importantly, I wanted to just let everyone know I'm grateful for you guys who are tuning in. I appreciate everyone who's been following along the journey so far. And there's a lot more to come from where we're at. David is he's here in the beginning, but I'm excited to have him on for a part 2 later on down in his journey and our journey as well.
Sure.
We have some books on here. This is just some books that we have around the house anyway that would just normally be on this table. As we continue to build this setup, things are going to become more and more authentic and true to us as a brand, right? So I had a few questions for you. David, you said you started your training at John Wai Martial Arts.
Yeah.
That's the studio you train at. From what I've seen, that's a Kung Fu studio?
Yeah, man. So we started traditionally as a Kung Fu school. This was 26 years ago. And so the owner, John, he's from Hong Kong. So he trained a lot of Kung Fu, came over, and he never wanted to open a school. That was the last thing that he had in mind, because he saw how the frustration that comes with running a martial arts school in regards to being a business. And so he actually started off in the music industry. So he started with a record label, and he worked with a lot of EDM, a lot of electronic dance music artists, things like that. And then later on, to make the long story short, there was a friend of his who also trained under the same Kung Fu instructor, and he did some stuff that really made John upset. And based off of that, that's what made him want to open a school, straight up out of spite type of a thing. So he opened up the school, started doing well, but through the years, there's always a change in tides, right? So now, Kung Fu isn't the big martial art. A lot of people are enjoying MMA or Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. So through the years, he was well aware of that and made the adaptations necessary in order to still have the school that's running and still having, you know, the numbers that we're having today. But yeah, man, we started out as a little kung fu school, and that was like the first martial art I trained there, and that I had to train there as well. You know, from there I branched out into jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you start in martial arts? How long has it been? Because you said you started with kung fu, and now I see you doing Muay Thai. You practice jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah.
Assuming, right?
Yeah, so actually the first martial art, because you could consider it a martial art, was like wrestling in high school. And that's how I ended up getting the job working with John. I was working at a Mexican restaurant like off of Broward called Bien Chido. And I was there for a bit of time. It was a pretty like rough point in my life, because I remember I recently dropped out of college. I didn't know what I wanted to do with school. I just wasn't motivated to be there at all whatsoever. And then I was pursuing bodybuilding at one point, and I suffered an injury that wouldn't allow me to continue with that. So all of that was kind of hitting me at the same time. And for me, it was like, fuck, man, I'm working at this restaurant I don't want to work at. I'm not doing what I want to do. And like, I just dropped out of school. And he would come in and he would eat there, and he'd do like some work while he was there at the restaurant. And I'd see he wear like MMA shorts or something fight related. So I talked to him about it. And just one day he offered me a job. He said, listen, it was like the strangest thing ever, because he comes up to me, he goes, he's like, hey, are you good with kids? And it was like the most off-putting random question you can ask someone. And I'm like, yeah, like, what do you mean by that? He's like, oh, well, I own a martial arts school and I teach kids and I need a kids instructor. I don't know if you'd be interested in that. Like, you seem like you're a person who's good with communication. I feel like you'd do well with that. And I said, fuck it, let's give it a shot, because I'd rather be doing that than to be working at the restaurant, right? And so I got the job, started working with the kids, doing some like behind the desk stuff. And then bit by bit, he was always encouraging me and everyone else to train. You know, he just tells people, like, if you're going to be an instructor here, you got to know what you're teaching. And for me, like, I just loved it. I loved the idea of training in the first place. So I started with mainly like the striking classes, kickboxing, the kung fu. The kung fu was very essential for him, like, because it goes by a belt system. So he wanted me to have a certain belt. So when I was teaching the kids, they would know I was like a higher level belt, right?
Do you mind? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you mind breaking that down real quick? How the belts work? Because I'm sure a lot of people don't. I know that you know black belt and white belt, right?
Yeah.
What are the in-betweens, and what belt did you need to be to be an instructor?
So he just wanted me to not be a white belt. So that was the main thing, which is where I'm still at now. I'm a green belt. So it'll go white, green, yellow, purple, red. And then from red, we go brown and black. Okay. And so in Kung Fu, they're called sashes as well. And there's just like a different curriculum. What's really important with Kung Fu is knowing like your forms. So in karate, it's called your katas. So like these certain basic movements that you know. And so you have to know a certain amount of forms for each and every belt. And then just like in other traditional martial arts, you have to know a little bit of, it's not Mandarin, but it's Cantonese. So it's like a southern dialect of Chinese. So you have to know like 1 through 20. You have to know the alphabet, things like that. And so there's like this curriculum set in play that he's had for 20 plus years for Kung Fu. When it comes to Jiu-Jitsu, it's different. Jiu-Jitsu's, it's like internationally accredited. There's like a specific organization of people that get together and say, okay, like this is what determines what a blue belt is, a purple belt is. And so Jiu-Jitsu, it's going to go white, blue to purple, purple to brown, and then brown to black. And so with Jiu-Jitsu, since it's like a little bit more internationally accredited, you're not going to find schools that are just handing out like random belts as you may see it in Kung Fu or Taekwondo specifically. Like if anyone tells you like they're a Taekwondo black belt, like there's really not much that you can go off by that. But with Jiu-Jitsu, they are pretty legitimate about those type of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I know Joe Rogan does which of the.
So he does Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, he's big into Jiu-Jitsu, and then like he does Muay Thai, right? Striking. Yeah. He started with Taekwondo. That was his thing.
Right.
And he's like really solid with that.
Okay, and because that's where you do the competitions for points. You're not you're not trying to knock someone out.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay.
And
that's cool. I wanted to ask, what would you, if you were to talk to the audience, right, and tell them what is your biggest lesson that you've taken from martial arts, mixed martial arts, teaching it, practicing it yourself, what would be the biggest lesson that you've taken from martial arts and that you could apply to your daily life, whether it's a habit, a skill, or a mindset, a perspective?
I think that there's two, and the two tie together. but it's number one, stay consistent, as vague as that may sound, and number two, have good people around you. And for me, it's hard to stay consistent without having those good people around me. And so, like, the grouping of friends that I have are completely different from what you see my friend group at John Wai, and then what you see like with my friends that I grew up with, you know, going to high school and everything. The guys at John Wai, they're just so straight edge, bro. Like, they don't party, they don't drink, they don't go out, they don't do any of that whatsoever. And it's not because like they judge it or hate it, it's just like not what they have fun with. Like, you talk with those guys and they just have fun watching fights, training, and repeating, you know. So with that, they've been able to keep me like on a really good straightforward path, where at many times, you know, you grow tired of the sport, you grow tired of what you put so much time and effort into, that you need these moments to kind of isolate yourself from it. But they've always been there to get me back on track, and for me, that's always something that's been necessary in my life. Like, I feel like any outward pressure can pull me in any direction. I just have to make sure that I put myself around the right people and the right type of pressure to keep me consistent overall, you know? So I'd say, you know, being consistent is what everyone's going to tell you, you know, long-term, stay consistent. But for me, the key to staying consistent is having those good people around me. Yeah, man.
Oh, that's awesome. And obviously a community is important, and that's why being in a school or
Yeah,
something
bro.
like that helps a lot when starting a new skill, right?
Yeah, man.
So imagine you were speaking to someone who was interested in joining a school, any martial art, right? Whether it be boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and they just haven't taken that step. What would you say is possibly holding them back, right? And what steps could they take to overcome that obstacle of taking that first step, right?
Yeah.
That's its own journey in itself.
Yeah, man, that's so true. There's so many people that walk in through the door, and they've always wanted to train martial arts for many, many years, and they just never put themselves into an environment to allow them to do so. And everyone has their own reason, right? A lot of people, sadly, like, I have more people come in where they say they wanted to train martial arts as a kid and their parents didn't allow them to. And that was kind of their setback until eventually they got to a point where they were a little bit more independent and they could do it themselves. I get a lot of people who come in like that. But the one thing is just, you know, go in and assess the environment. Unfortunately, there's a lot of schools that aren't looking at the fact that people are beginners, they've never trained before, they're not considerate towards that. So you want to just read the environment when you walk in, like, how nice are they to you? Are they greeting you? How is the interaction between the people that you see, like, in the background, you know? Because sometimes, like, I'll go into a new school that invites me to train over there with them, and you could feel, like, the tension. You could tell it's just a fight gym and nothing but. And so if you've never trained martial arts and you want to do it just like as a hobby, as a way of learning self-defense, you don't want to go to a fight gym. But people won't tell you this is a fight gym, this isn't. It's more so like the people within the fight community that understand and know these things. So you have to kind of read and assess the energy around you. But if you feel like you get a good mix of like old, young, female, male, and you see that people are talking, having a good time, and people are nice to you, it should be a gym for you to feel comfortable in and confident with your ability of training there, you know. But the biggest thing is, like, even with like us, like adults, you'll get people come in, they're like, yeah, I'd love to do this, but I've never trained before whatsoever. And we're like, well, that's like the point, right? Like, if you've never done this, come in. Like, we have a way of you being introduced to it to where it's simple, you know. You won't get hurt, you won't get like, it won't be too complex. Like, you'll have fun doing it, you know. So that's like the biggest thing, is just taking action. And that's like with anything, right? Like, we want to be perfectionists before we actually take action into something, and then we never end up doing anything about it, right? So just jump in. If you fail, if you don't do well, if you feel like people are on another level than you, that's fine. Like, we're all going to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah, and I've noticed that most people are more scared of failure than or of themselves,
Yeah.
and what they can actually accomplish,
Yeah,
than
man.
the idea of failure, I should say, because
Yeah,
they're
dude.
they're more scared of like the actual battle within themselves of being not good at something, right? It's not the idea of failing, because failure is just a concept that we
Yeah.
overcome, because you only fail if you quit, right?
Yeah.
So those people that are worried about failing are just more so worried about the fact that they're quitters.
Oh,
And
100%.
you know what I mean? And they really don't like that idea of themselves, so they just avoid situations in which they are gonna quit. So if you were to tell the people in Broward County what makes John Wai different, and why should they come train with you and your team?
I think number one, like, we've just built a really strong community. Number one, every time I go in there, it doesn't matter who's in there. It could be a parent, it could be the kids that train there, the other instructors, the adult members. Everyone carries a really good energy, and everyone kind of feeds off of that. And so I really understood branding and culture working this job, because you'll get people who walk in through the door. We immediately get a feel that they're not of our vibe, of our culture. They'll get that same feeling and they bounce and they're not coming back. But everyone who tends to, again, recognize our energy and our culture and just how compassionate of a place we are, they tend to stick around. And so just off of that, building that off, you know, that's like the most important thing overall, you know. Just doesn't have to be martial arts. Like, it could be anything. It could be like with what you're doing with Built Different, right? Like, find a culture, find a grouping of people that you really enjoy being around with, and not just for the sake of the craft, right? Just you're there because I'm training martial arts, or because I'm trying to lose weight, but genuinely because at some point you just like the people there. You know, like, you could go out with these people. We'll do like member appreciation parties. We'll go to a bar, we'll go somewhere, and like, these people show up, they come, they have a good time. And we're not training martial arts, we're having a drink, getting some food, but it's just the people, you know, and that you interact with. That's like the biggest thing overall, you know.
So for you, what's the next step? Because obviously you have your community down here. We were talking off camera before that at a certain point, when you want to challenge yourself to another level, you have to change environments.
Yeah.
Right? So what does that look like for you in your future? Are you looking to go pro in, I think you are pro, no?
Yes, sir, yeah, since October.
Sorry about that.
Now you're good, yes, sir.
Man, you're a pro, so like, let me respect that, you know, and I mean, you're looking to take it obviously to the next level still, you know, so I always tell people that even when you do something good, if you know that you're built different or you're elite, when you're still looking at how you could have done it better.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact that you're pro, you're still looking for the next level and the next level and wherever your goals take you, and that's what I'm a little bit curious of, and where your path looks like the next few years.
So now I definitely want to hone in on my professional career. I'm 27, and in general that's young. But for an athlete, that's like you're like pushing, you know, the end of your career. So for me, like, I want to be able to be as efficient as I can with the time that I have, and put as much of my time and effort into fighting. And so I'm just trying to find a way of balancing everyday life, like we all have to, you know, like work, everything else, general responsibilities, yet still being able to keep up with my training, the recovery process of everything, and just seeing how I can be more efficient with my ability to be a better fighter. You know, like, if you looked at the last UFC fights, you had the new champ Ilya Topuria, who beat Volkanovski. He's 27, he's my age, you know, and he's already a world champ. So when I see those type of things, I'm like, man, I got a lot ahead of me, a lot of road work that I need to cover. So for me, it's being efficient, you know, not wasting too much time, and seeing how I can manage the day-to-day, the same things that all of us have, and just like kind of cleaning that up so I can put more time and effort into training, into fighting. That's the biggest thing, man. Yes. How about you, bro? What's going on with Build Different? Because I've seen you've been pushing this for a minute.
Yeah, man, it's the brand, and that's what, you know, why we're here now, and we're building the brand with the more long-form content, right? Yeah. Because we just want to give more of an insight into our mindset and our philosophy of training and our philosophy of thinking, so that we can, because training is more than just squat this many times, deadlift this many times, right? I'm looking to build you as a person when I train you. I'm looking to literally build your mindset, transform your life.
Correct.
Right? So this just gives people an insight into why my philosophy of training is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Basically, just the reason as to why I do what I do, you know. So
Correct.
I think at the stage that we're in right now, in the day and age we're in right now, building as much content as we can and really networking as much as we can. And at the age we're at, you're 27, I'm 25. We're really just looking to grow. I mean, and I can tell by your mindset, and that's why again I brought you on, because I know you're an intentional person, a person of value that can bring value to the world, and I appreciate it. Watching your Instagram stories, even though I think you have an Android, right? Because I see the Instagram stories. Like, so like the camera's a little off, but I watch your stories and it's actual valuable content, and I still watch it every time because
thank you.
You know what I mean? So I want to talk on that a little bit because you're eating healthy. You're always saying eat your colors, right?
Eat your colors, yes, sir.
I want you to speak a little bit on what you know in terms of a healthy breakfast. Let's start with that because I know you're big into breakfast.
So like I think the biggest thing is finding a way of staying simple with everything, right? Like I just talked about being efficient with your day-to-day routine. Cooking could be one of the biggest hassles out there. And so for me, I just try to cook the same things in the same order around the same time, you know? So one thing that I tell people to follow through are like, I call it like my 3 pillars. So what you do is like you have like a vegetable that you like a vegetable pillar, you have a protein pillar, and then you have a carbohydrate pillar. And then let's say you pick 3 different foods for each one. So 3 different types of proteins, 3 different types of veggies, 3 different forms of carbohydrates. Learn to like master how to cook and prep those total 9. And then you can start kind of mixing them up where it doesn't feel like it's the same thing every single meal, right? I'm not the type of person to meal prep because I just hate the idea of taking like a Sunday and then just spending hours in the kitchen to prep my meals Monday through Saturday or whatever it may be. So I just kind of cook throughout the days. And I know that I like white rice, I like sweet potato, and then maybe I like pasta. I really don't know what my third carb is. And then I'll do chicken, I'll do beef, and I'll do salmon. Those are like my 3 forms of protein. So once you kind of pick those down, you have an idea of how to prep them every single time, and it gets easier and easier, right? And so it just starts to become more efficient in being able to stay on top of your meals overall. So I think that's the biggest thing. But yeah, dude, breakfast for me, I love breakfast because it's simple. Like eggs are the easiest thing to cook. I saute some spinach, make a little toast or oatmeal, and that's it. You know, you just got to keep it simple. And obviously, like we're all human. We're not going to eat the same thing every single day at the same time. But that's why having those options helps. But knowing how to like master those options is really beneficial. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge the shoes real quick. We're gonna
The Vivos, yeah.
Shout out Vivo.
Vivo sponsor us, bro.
For sure, Vivo, because I can't get my leg up. Look, I got a different pair on than he does, but those are super fire. Let's talk to the people real quick about the importance of barefoot training.
Yes.
I love to bring talk on that subject because I think it's super important. So what's your opinion on it? What research have you done on barefoot training, and how does it relate in terms of martial arts? Because I take a different approach as a personal trainer.
Yeah.
But it's very similar, right?
Yeah, man. For me, like, so my grandpa comes from his lineage is of a tribal connection called the Chibcha tribe in Colombia. And so he's always talked about like the importance of being out in nature, the importance of like stretching in the morning, being barefoot, things like that. And so ever since I could think of like the stories my grandpa would tell me, I've noticed the importance of just being barefoot in general. Obviously in martial arts, we're always barefoot. We're always training on mats, and you get used to the idea of being barefoot overall. But I think a lot of people, you know, have certain injuries because of the fact that they're used to the traditional footwear that we have right now, right? Like the elevated heel platform, things like that. We're so accustomed to heel striking, which is so bad for us. A really big concept that's being taught or understood by strength and conditioning coaches in the MMA realm right now is like fascial training, like training your fascia. And I can't give a specific definition of what your fascia is, but it's basically like it's like a ligament-like structure that surrounds all of your muscles, right? And so strength and conditioning coaches, throughout the years, the principle has been behind the idea of prioritizing training muscle, But your fascia has been shown to play a very significant role in your athletic ability and your coordination and whatnot. And there's, I'll send you the guy, but I forget his name, but he talks about the importance of being barefoot and how anything that you do, walking, cycling, running, just being barefoot overall trains the fascia to work like in an integrative fashion. So being able to use the body from down up. And he and many people say that a lot of injuries come from the fact that we're training in isolation and not training as a unit, training like plyometrics or things like that. We've kind of strayed away from that. So I think it's really, really important to be barefoot, number one, because everything starts from the ground up. You know, so you want to prevent injury, you want to build yourself stronger. I'm a big believer that it starts in the feet and it builds up throughout, you know.
100% agree.
It's really important, yeah, man.
100% agree. I preach it to everybody.
Yeah, bro.
I love to see you're a proponent of it as well. So
get your toe spacers too, man. Buy some toe spacers.
Get your toe spacers. Get your rock mat. You guys know the vibes, man.
Yeah, man.
It's funny because it just seems like you are what you attract, and I believe that, right? Because once you become a man of character or a man of habit or things of these sorts, or a woman of habit, woman of character, you begin to attract those same people into your life, right? And, we haven't spoken in a while. We would go back and forth on DMs here and there, right?
Yeah.
And exchange ideas here and there. But we're actually sitting down now and able to sit down and elaborate on those thoughts in a long-form content. And I think we're having a great conversation so far.
Yeah,
I
bro.
think there's a lot of value that the people are going to take from it.
That always blows my mind because you, Kyle, and I got another boy, but
Shout out Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle, bro. Like
he's coming down soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming down.
Dude, he went to my fight when he was when I fought up at Tampa. He was there, and I was like, just the love. Like again, he's a guy where I've never sat down with you before either. This is like the first time we've sat down in like long format like this to have conversation. But we know each other so well through the content we post, or again responding to each other's content, which is kind of crazy, like the the relationships that you can build through social media like that. But you're right, dude. It's all about being around the right mindset, the right people. And I feel like as we get older, you start to realize like how little time and effort you want to put into someone who's not on your wavelength. You're just like, you may respect them, you may like them to an extent, but at the end of the day, you just don't want to put your time and effort into someone that you don't feel like is going to reciprocate, right? Like,
yeah.
It's
and
not worth it.
I think that's really important. I realized this more recently in my life. I was reading a book. It's called Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David.
Okay.
And in this book, one of the first questions in the first chapter, he basically positions it in the way and asking you, who do you want to be? Like, before you decide anything, what your next 5 moves are going to be in life, you need to know who do you want to be. Which goes back to the 7 habits of highly effective people as well, which is the habit of beginning with the end in mind, right? Because you can't go somewhere intentionally without knowing where you're going first.
Yeah.
If you end up there, you got lucky, basically, right?
Yeah.
So I think if by beginning with the end in mind and really knowing where we're going to end up, it helps us a lot in these, especially in these conversations and these interactions on a daily basis. Listen, we're building something, so we're here, and there's intentional action behind that, right? And what comes about, the fruit that reaps eventually, we'll see what happens. But at least we were planting the daily seeds, right? Between just networking, just being authentic as a person, because those daily interactions you have with people, right? At John Wai, for example, or wherever you are on a daily basis, that you're being your genuine self and you're impacting people and you're influencing people, that comes back later on, It could affect, it's like the butterfly effect. I was watching this movie recently with my buddy.
The old one?
Mr. Nobody. I don't know if you know Mr. Nobody. I know the butterfly effect too.
Yeah, Mr. Nobody. No, I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's good?
Yeah.
All right. Is that an older movie or is that like a...
2013.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I remember Butterfly Effect though with like Ashton Kutcher, right? The
I've
older
seen
version,
that.
yeah.
It's similar to that, but essentially we don't know who we're impacting, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I really appreciate you for coming on. I think if you were to basically give yourself a 1 minute, just like a value moment that you could just tell everyone in the world something of value that you think was gonna leave an impact if you were to die right now? God forbid. If you were to die right now, what would be the 1 minute of value that you would give to somebody, whether it be your grandson, your great grandson? If you were to look him right in the camera right now, what would you tell them that you think would bring impact and value?
Number one, I'd say don't chase anything out of the idea of people assuming your identity or assuming your worth. A lot of the times, especially when you're younger too, right? You have so much potential that you're not even aware of it. Don't let your parents, your friends, or anyone really suck you into the idea of being what you would consider average, right? You can do so much. It's just a matter of, like you said, putting in time, effort, and taking action. It's the people who take action that are able to accomplish the things that no one would consider to be able to be possible, right, overall. So don't let people identify you in any way, shape, or form. Do what you want to do. And if you're going to say you're going to do it, do it. Just take action, because there's been so many times in my life where I've told people, you know, I'd like to do this or I'm going to do this, and you don't take action upon it, and it breaks you down. It breaks you down, and it starts to have you question yourself as to whether or not you're the individual you say you are, or you're the individual that has the potential of being something else, you know. If you say you're going to do something, take action, do it. Not just for the reason that, you know, indecisiveness kills, but because you lying to yourself and not being a man of your word or a woman of your word, that also kills you overall, you know, bit by bit. So do things that embolden you, that strengthen you. It could be the small things, the monotonous tasks, but do those, and don't do the things that are going to break you down day to day, bit by bit, you know. And everyone knows what that is for themselves. You know, for one individual, it may be alcohol. They can't touch that shit. For another individual, maybe, you know, seeing a certain person, you know, a certain individual that they were in a relationship that carries a certain energy. We all know what we are doing in our lives that are slowly and bit by bit emboldening us, and what we're doing in our lives that are breaking us down. And it's just us making the right choice and knowing what we should head towards. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to allow us to feel empowered into being the people that we want to be.
Right. Yeah. And that was about a minute. That was spot on. Yeah. What I will say, bro, is you're a very insightful person, and I appreciate that, because I love these conversations.
Hell yeah,
so
man.
Where does your philosophy come from? I know you read, because again, I follow you on social media. So what books are you looking at? What influencers are you following? What content are you watching? What's your diet? Not only physical, but mentally
as well. Yeah.
Right? What are you feeding yourself?
Dude, you got 48 Laws of Power here. I've never fully finished the book. I just skimmed through certain chapters, but that book has had a pretty big representation in my life. Follow Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi puts out some really good content in regards to business, and as well as just like character development.
Did you notice this was his book or no?
Oh, bro, that's hilarious. You have the Alex Hormozi book.
Yeah.
Alex Hormozi is another guy. But to be honest, a book that I read years ago that to this day has a really big impact on me is called Standpoints by Sven Brinkman. So he's like a Dutch philosopher, and his book is basically an anti-self-help book. He shits on the idea of self-help books and like what's wrong with them. And so if you ever get a chance, like look into that book. And for me, that's had a pretty big impact on me overall.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time, David. It's
Thank
good
you,
to
sir.
see you, man.
Hell yeah.
We're going to have a part 2 for sure.
For sure.
I would definitely like to elaborate more on the training asaspect of things, because like
Yeah,
you said,
man.
you started getting into personal training. A few times you came into my DMs asking me a couple questions about a few things, and I would love to elaborate. I mean, we have the whiteboard right behind you. I would love to get visual with it and really talk about
I'm down.
all things training. Like that's
yes. Let's focus on that next time, because I like to talk about that too.
100%.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. And for all of you watching, we appreciate you. Stay tuned. Subscribe, like, all of that fun stuff. Shout out the crew that's here. Help me out. Respect. Love. Blessings, y'all. Be
Peace.
great.
Thank you, bro.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
I love
bro.
that.
Appreciate you.
Hell yeah.